30% of all calls we were scheduling simply, even if they wanted to, could not afford our service or finance our service. So here we do anywhere between 500K a month and $1 million a month. Hey, my name is Tim Madden with Executive Career Upgrades. I'm doing this testimonial on behalf of SimpleCheck just because they've added massive value in our businesses. What we sell here at Executive Career Upgrades is we sell getting directors, VPs, and executives farther in their career. So we help people land new opportunities, become better leaders, consulting opportunities, and more. And our typical price point is anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000. Before SimpleCheck, the most painful thing is we thought we were talking to qualified people. The reality is, without having the know-how of even if they could afford our service, it's very challenging, right? You could want to have a Lamborghini, but if you don't qualify for it, or if you don't have the funds for it, you probably shouldn't go to the Lamborghini dealership. So what was happening is, right, our team was spending so much time on wasted calls, no-show, low close rate, and actually we have statistical data of those with challenging credit were our highest rate of no-shows, and we also have statistical data that they were only 3 to 5% of our overall customers. Which is wild because when you market on the internet, you ask people their income, if they're willing to invest, all these questions, and they say everything that you think would make a qualified lead, but they just simply can't afford it, and it causes so many problems with the calendars, closers being upset that they're talking to people who can't afford it. If I had to put a cost on what that was costing us, well, here's what I know. 30% of all calls we were scheduling simply, even if they wanted to, could not afford our service or finance our service. So here we do anywhere between 500K a month and $1 million a month. You can kind of do the math, if you will, on what 30% of talking to non-qualified leads could potentially do for your business. What made me decide to go to SimpleCheck is I have a great friend, Kelsey, and she said, hey, just when SimpleCheck was getting started, this is pretty cool. You should check it out. I think it'd help you a lot. So it was actually a referral for me of how I got connected, did the demo, and I was like, the funny part about it, I was like, yeah, but how's this going to really help us? I get we know their credit score. I just didn't know, right? I didn't have the statistical data saying that people at these credit scores convert at these levels. So at the beginning, I was like, well, hey, it'll be nice to know if they qualify for these financing options, etc. Maybe the closers will know to present them, etc. Right? But I didn't really know the true impact actually until a couple months of utilizing the service. And then what do? We call them green leads. We send that information back to Facebook, and now we're getting more qualified calls as well at a cheaper rate. So just phenomenal. I use it day to day of when someone schedules, right? When someone schedules the call, it basically lands on our calendar. If we find someone who's kind of non-credit qualified, we don't show a high available of funds, we have our setting team basically just call them to just double check, hey, this is what it is on the investment, etc. That's just the way we do it. I know SimpleCheck now has lead routing. There's a lot of different things that we could do. And really, the decision that changed is now we know if they're above a 700 credit score. We didn't even know that our average buyer now, after using SimpleCheck a year, right, has an average of a 745 credit score. That's pretty wild, right? We had no idea. So now what we do is if they have a credit score of 700, we send them directly to the closer's calendar. If they have a 620 to a 699, it's routed to the setter to go over expectations, etc. If they are below that, we invite them to our weekly training where we talk about price on it, etc. And that's just been super huge, right? So we've had many wins. The biggest win is really just, as you can imagine, we're not talking to 30% of people who can't afford our service. So because of that, what we learned is people with good credit have a higher show rate, have a higher close rate. You save a bunch of time and you have more meaningful conversations because as much as as much as people don't like to talk about it, while I agree some people with bad credit, got into some big financial messes, etc., due to losing jobs, etc., but most of the time that's not the case. That's just a byproduct of making bad financial decisions, right? Unfortunately, and I'll be the one to say it, that if you continually make bad financial decisions, doing things like coaching, mentorship, and different things is always going to be difficult for that person to do because they likely have some deep-rooted mindset issues. That's kind of just a fact. That's why they have lower close rates, etc. And I'm really glad we don't have to deal with that like emotional roller coaster all the time. If you're thinking about doing this, you need to immediately do this, because even if you sell to business owners, there's business owners out there as well that unfortunately don't have good credit. And if you have a high price item, they might not be able to afford it. right? And they might not be able to qualify for financing. So unless they have a big bag of cash sitting around somewhere, it's going to be highly, difficult to convert them into a customer. So, my final thoughts on SimpleCheck is in 2026 now, right? If you're not using this and you sell to either people or business leaders, you need to immediately start doing this. It's likely costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on your organization. If not, it could be costing you millions. Good luck.